Now, I've been waiting all weekend to speak with my next guest about the extraordinary scenes in the Oval Office and the fallout from the Zelensky affair, including Keir Starmer's comments about boots on the ground. Joining me now is Newsweek Senior Editor-at-Large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel Josh Hammer. Josh, I've seldom seen more misinformation, more ill-informed emoting masquerading as analysis on any issue than what transpired at the White House. It's why I'm eager to get your sober, reality-based commentary. I watched the full interaction. It goes for around 50 minutes and it's eye-opening. I'd suggest to any pundit commenting on this issue to actually watch that full encounter before opining about what happened in the White House. But Josh, these negotiations have been underway for some time, and some crazy reasons, Zelensky decided to renegotiate the deal in front of the world's media and decided to do it by being incredibly rude, incredibly dismissive of both the president and the vice president.
Rita, it's one of the most astonishing things I think I've ever seen in politics. I was actually recording an episode of my own show, The Josh Hammer Show, while this was happening live at the White House, and I recorded a whole segment on the Russia-Ukraine deal because I assumed that it was basically a done deal. And then I saw what happened, and I texted my producer. I was like, oh my God, we have to redo the entire segment. Like, what the heck just happened at the White House here? I mean, what was Zelensky thinking? I mean, I, like you, Rita, have watched this entire exchange there. You know, it almost seems to me like he went in there with the full intention of just blowing this up. And I'm not entirely sure exactly what he's trying to do, other than the fact that, one, I don't think he's very good at this. I don't think Vladimir Zelensky is very good at this whole international politics thing. Two, he must have the worst advisors in the world. Remember when he did that campaign stop with Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania at the munitions factory? He has gone all in repeatedly for the left, for liberals, for Democrats there. And he doubled down and tripled down, quadrupled down in utterly spectacular fashion there. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, Rita, let's be very clear here. They did nothing wrong. Nothing. I cannot name a single thing that I think they did wrong. On the contrary, they had extraordinary patience there. They spent roughly 35 minutes out of that 55-minute or so exchange there trying to get Zelensky to actually agree to the deal that he had basically, in theory, already agreed to. The whole thing's a mess. The whole thing's a mess, but Zelensky is entirely to blame for it. He really is 100% to blame here, I think.
Well, when you do watch the entire exchange, you do see that Donald Trump in particular was uncharacteristically patient and diplomatic, as Zelensky just was dismissive, would make comments, would roll his eyes. It was just... I just don't know why that performance took place. And I do wonder whether this relationship between Zelensky and the Trump administration is salvageable. I hope for the sake of the Ukrainian people it is salvageable and it's done quickly. But even some of Zelensky's biggest supporters, including Senator Lindsey Graham, who has campaigned endlessly for further funding for Ukraine, even he was appalled by what happened in the Oval Office. And I've got to say, this is significant. This is his comments shortly after the press conference ended.
What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelensky again. I think most Americans saw a guy that they would not want to go in business with. The way he handled the meeting, the way he confronted the president, was just over the top. He either needs to resign and send somebody over that we can do business with, or he needs to change.
That's from Vladimir Zelensky's most ardent backer, arguably, over the past 3 years. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio explains here the administration's frustrations with Zelensky and the discussions he had about that minerals deal, which Zelensky backed in the meetings they had.
And he said, sure, we want to do this deal. It makes all the sense in the world. The only thing is I need to run it through my legislative process. They have to approve it. I read 2 days later that Zelensky's out there saying, I rejected the deal. I told him, no way, that we're not doing that. Well, that's not what happened in that meeting. So you start to get upset by somebody. We're trying to help these guys. President Trump's not the kind of person that's going to sit there and take that. He's very transparent. He's going to tell you exactly how he feels. And he sent a message that he's not going to get gamed here. He's willing to work on peace because he cares about Ukraine. And he hopes Zelensky will be a partner in that and not someone who's out there putting the sort of counter messaging to try to, hustle us in that regard. That's not that's not going to be productive here.
Josh, this hustling, these strategies may have worked with the last administration. We do know Joe Biden lost his temper with Zelensky and shouted at him. But in the end, he kept writing these massive checks on behalf of the American people. But the American people don't want this anymore. They don't want to be funding this war. This was an election issue. We know precisely where President Trump stands on this issue. So again, I do wonder why Zelensky took the route he took, knowing this administration's position on this entire catastrophe.
So here's my best guess. I mean, one, I genuinely meant what I said a few minutes ago. I think that Vladimir Zelensky is kind of an idiot when it comes to international geopolitics. I actually do not think he understands American political dynamics particularly well. By the way, he would be far from the first foreign leader to fail to properly understand American political dynamics. Our politics can be a little complicated, not necessarily his fault there. But he also just totally mistook the year. I mean, the year is 2025. I think that he still thinks the year is 2022 and that Joe Biden is still in charge because, again, he has made his bed with the Democrats. He did that whole campaign stop with Kamala Harris there. He's just completely unwilling to read the room and to see the tea leaves and recognize what they are. By the way, the deal that he should have agreed to that I still think ultimately has a chance if Zelensky steps down and is replaced by a different leader there, this mineral rights deal, actually a pretty good deal for Ukraine. The U.S. is not going to go all in at this point on a NATO-esque security guarantee with boots on the ground thing for Ukraine. What a mineral rights deal does do, though, or some sort of economic arrangement, it gives the United States real, meaningful, tangible skin in the game. That actually does make them invested, quite literally, in the outcome of peace and prosperity and economic growth and the shared pie and all that stuff in Ukraine. So if Zelensky had two wits about him, if he had any common sense whatsoever, he would have read the room. He would have gone in there. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for your taxpayers who have spent $150 billion or whatever the heck this gargantuan sum has been there. Thank you for the fact that you campaigned relentlessly on peace, and yet here you are inviting me here to the Oval Office. By the way, I noticed that you're meeting with me before Vladimir Putin. I'm flattered by that. Thank you for that there. Like, there's misplaying your hand, and then there's like misplaying the most important meme that your country has had in a century, and he's done the latter, not the former.